Hello, everyone, and welcome and thank you for joining our LinkedIn Live session today on 6 steps to close the skill gaps. I'm Margaret from Global Talent Hub and your host for today. In an ever changing talent landscape, skill gaps have become a top concern for executives worldwide. In fact, 83% of CEOs say skill gaps threaten business performance, yet a few organizations have a clear strategy on this topic. There are many root causes, but a few of them for skill gaps are talent scarcity, due to many reasons like demographics, like technology, skill obsolescence, so the shell life of skills less than 5 years, so the world is turning faster and faster, and a lack of visibility, insufficient skills visibility impeding business objectives. So the skill gap is really related to business performance. We will be discussing top strategies to close these skill gaps and, as such, future-proof your enterprise. The following questions will be talked about. Why is a skill-based strategy important? What are the common pitfalls and mistakes organizations make when shifting to a skill-based strategy? And what are the top strategies an organization needs to execute to close the skill gap effectively? And before we get started, I would like to ask our panel members and experts to introduce themselves, and I would appreciate to start with you, Nithya.
Sure. Yeah, delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Margaret, Michael, and Anne for inviting me to the session. So, I am Nitya. I'm part of the talent team here at the London Stock Exchange Group. And one of my core responsibilities is to kind of establish and also maintain the job architecture. And by extension, it's also maintaining the skills architecture that's embedded within it. And I've been with the organization for nearly 9 months now. And previously, I was a management consultant at one of the big fours where I was heavily invested in also creating and also embedding the skills-based organization approach across the talent lifecycle for some of our client organizations. So that's me. Thank you.
So, actually, from knowing it to doing it.
Well, yes, yes, of course.
Yeah, that's cool. Anne, can I give you the word?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having us on the call today. It's exciting to be here. And I'm Anne Fulton, CEO and founder of Fuel 50. So we're a skills intelligence and talent marketplace platform. So we're supporting organizations on that skills transformation journey for organizations as diverse as Amazon or 3M, Meta, United Nations, Johnson and Johnson, and another 50, but also, of course, London Stock Exchange. I'm very proud of the work that's been achieved there.
Super excited to have you on the panel. And
Thank you.
last but not least, Michael. And in this setting, it is really women first. So up to you now.
I think it's always women first, Margaret. But it was also very kind to describe me as an expert. I sit here with Nitya and Anne. I'm absolutely not an expert. I am chief executive of 1080. Get it right in a minute. A career coaching organisation, long-time partner investor in Fuel 50, working with individuals basically to help manage their careers, and that's where the connections with the skills and the skills gap. And I'm going to start with a story. I always describe is it the issue of employees helping to manage their career goes me back to Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, the famous Canadian ice hockey player, who, when asked about the secret of his success, said he skated to where the puck was going. He skated to where the puck was going. And that's where we are with skills. How, as an employee, can you skate to where the skills are going? Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. And thank you, team, for being on the LinkedIn Live session today. So let's start with the first question. So why is a skills-based strategy important? I think I would like to give that question to kick off to you, Nithya, because you're the customer point of view in this setting. And I really would like to understand what your experience is and how your journey at the London Stock Exchange has evolved over time.
Sure, gladly. And I think so. If you can break this down into a really simple question, I think how will any organization plan their business strategy if they don't know what skills they have or the skills they need. I think this is really not a HR issue. This is a business risk. And also, if people, particularly business leaders, don't have the visibility into the skills landscape, and I think it's almost synonymous to flying blind, isn't it, when it comes to innovation or AI-led transformation, digital transformation, etc. So I am going to actually repeat this phrase that's been told several times now, which is skills is the new currency for workforce, and the organizations and businesses that manage them well are indeed outperforming their peers. I think if you actually look at the skills itself as a supply chain, it's really about understanding the supply and the demand for skills in any organization, and underpinning that is the skills data. Is the data led insights, and how will you use that data to formulate the skill strategy? And by formulating the skill strategy, you're able to have a better hold or a better understanding of who to deploy, the talent to deploy in some of those emerging projects. And that will then translate into having a higher productivity returns, or even sort of faster innovation cycle. Or from an employee perspective, it's really about increasing your employee engagement or employee retention, isn't it? So, and I think it fundamentally, the skills strategy is about understanding your internal capabilities, and that to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah, and so thank you so much. And if I'm allowed to add to this, I think that the element of strategy is important here, because it's related to your business strategy, right? You either the longer term outlook, also it gives you a future proof experience if you work on those skill side of the business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything to add from your point of view, Anne or Michael?
I think I align completely with Nithya's beautiful articulation, and that we think that skills are that currency of strategic value today. And that skills need to be the atomic unit, the granular unit. And I think if I use an example, right, so if you're hiring just on job title today, or you're looking internally for that talent, and you're just searching on the job title, it's not going to give you the granularity and the detail and precision that you need to be able to then find the actual skills. So we think that skills are going to be this connector and the connective tissue to the future strategy of organizations. And we're probably going to go there later, but if you're thinking about AI coming at us, and I did hear a great quote the other day that AI can't think, but it can learn. But AI is here with us. But if we're thinking around how AI is going to disrupt jobs today, it's going to be not necessarily at the skill level. Our skills will remain resilient. Yes, they've got a shorter shelf life, but they will remain resilient. It's going to be the tasks and the technologies that we use and the way that we do things that are going to change, but our skills will remain resilient. So, another reason that we need to continue to invest in skills.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, and especially because it's the bigger picture about strategy and skills details, but then it's also about people, and that's the side of Michael. If you connect with people and if you hear about what they say, what is it what they actually say about this? How do they perceive that?
I'm going to say, Margaret, and I pick up, and I'm going to be slightly controversial because Anne's mentioned AI. So absolutely is right. What the skill strategy's got to be aligned to business strategy, hasn't it? Indeed, your ability to exploit opportunities is the organization's ability to get skills to the front line as quickly as possible in order to exploit the opportunity. But that's not easy. We've talked about AI. I'm pretty certain 3 years ago, very few organizations would have been talking about what we need are AI skills. So it comes back to my view around Wayne Gretzky and identifying where the puck's going. For both the organization and the individuals to have a future picture of what skills are necessary for business success, that's one of the major challenges. If I might go on them, Mark, because the next one is how we measure these skills. Now, I still think a lot of organizations think they can do it top down, i.e. we'll manage this top down. Anne and I are very much, I'm employee centered. You build jobs around employees with skills. And I truly believe organizations are the best people at rating themselves. I'm not saying you don't need validation of that, but an organization that thinks it can rate their employees top down in some sort of great manpower plan. Don't go with that. I think the next issue you've got to really look at very quickly is how you engage employees to do this. Why should I do this? What's in it for me? And you know, I don't know, well-versed work in career management. I think most organizations, the quickest way to develop your career is to leave an organization. And organizations do not do career mobility very well. And I'm sure we'll talk, Anne, about the tools to do that. But to do that, you've got to get employees engaged. My last one is I'm going to say is the complexity of it. I see lots of these. Is it oncologies or taxologies? You know, with thousands of skills required. You've got to keep it really simple, I think. Yeah. So that's why I've gone into to Margaret. I think this is quite a major issue for organisations, and it's not an easy solution. I mean.
So that is actually a bit already the common pitfalls or the challenges organizations face. So Haley, that would be nice to bring up. And if we think about that, Nithya, how do you see that happening while you're implementing implementing the strategy, but also have to involve all of your colleagues in this process?
Absolutely, Margaret. And I think Michael beautifully touched on that. It is the what's in it for me factor. If we do not explicitly mention that to employees right from the get-go, and I think for like any other change implementation, it's likely to fall flat. And I think the other thing that I would like to emphasize here is we as skills specialists, we tend to kind of throw jargons at business leaders, like, you know, having a common definition or a common language for skills taxonomy, skills ontology. I mean, so they really don't need to understand the nuts and bolts of the architecture that's sort of sitting beneath it, or the infrastructure that's sitting beneath it. What they really want to understand, it is the commercial benefit of skills, right? How do you quantify the benefit of skills, and what is the commercial value of it? I mean, any business leader would be really interested to know as to how it's actually reducing their cost, how is it minimizing their risk, and how is it helping them retain their top talent in their team? And I think if we can sort of try to focus on providing them answers to those questions and trying to sort of land the skills strategy or skills implementation that way, it'll be far more successful rather than having a sort of HR hat on and going there and talking about skills-based strategy and skills implementation.
Yeah, it is in particular not an HR strategy only. It is a business strategy. And I think that is also in line on with what you experience in the implementation, and especially the rollout of tools and support.
Yeah, I think I wanted to summarize, both of those pieces that both Michael and Nithya said, because I think, it's not just a tech implementation, it's not just a skills strategy. And it's so important to bring your people along with you. Yeah. And so for us, that is bringing your leaders along. And as you say, talking their language. Nithya beautifully articulated, because they will care about what it means to their jobs. Is it going to be easier to fill roles? Is it going to be easier to keep your people? Is it going to be easier to grow and have those skills that you need? So that's all, the leader consideration. And then from the employee point of view, what's in it for them? I mean, I do hear a lot of fear out there in the market, talking to Amazon's 10,000 leaders, and they're fearful around, what's AI going to mean for them and what's it going to do to their jobs and their people's jobs. So there's a lot of fear. So I think, creating a clear roadmap for your people around skills growth so that they're keeping up to date, that they're informed, that they understand what are the, for example, AI, what are the top AI skills and how can they grow them and be connected to assets and people that are going to support them. So, hearing some amazing things that some of our customers are doing around connecting people to those learning opportunities, whether it's through a mentor, whether it's through an experience or a stretch assignment, connecting to an expert, or connecting to those learning assets. So to us, it's about enabling those connections that are going to help people create a future for themselves. That it means that they have skill resilience and future resilience, but equally for those organizations to have that resilience.
Well, and absolutely. And that starts with a common denominator in terms of what is the business strategy, what is the skill-based strategy, what is the terminology, but also how then to communicate, how to actually also take the leaders up for the change, and then how to build that bottom-up really strong intrinsic motivation for people itself. If we think about all of this, and especially if we think about top strategies, we call this session the 6 steps to implement this to future-proof your organization. So what are these 6 steps, or are the top strategies? I think we are not able to elaborate on all the 6, but what would be the strategy to implement? And Anne, I would like to give you a bit of momentum to give your point of view from your experience and from the.
Yes, super. So I'm going to do 6 strategies in 6 minutes, right?
No,
So, big challenge.
I think you're able to do it.
And I think number one, we do want to start with the strategy, and I think I just want to nod towards our partners at 1080 and Global Talent Hub in terms of having those strategic conversations, because I think it's really important to set the groundwork, set the strategy, and really define those outcomes. So our number one step that I'd be talking about is really understanding, what's your goal, what's your why, what are the business benefits associated with your skills transformation journey. So having a really good handle on that. Some of our customers are looking for things like internal mobility, and I'm thinking of Johnson & Johnson saying, somebody, one leader in Johnson & Johnson said that was their number one. Another leader at Johnson & Johnson, CLO, says it's about skill growth and skill acquisition and measurable improvement there. So I think having a really clear understanding about what elements of the talent cycle you want to implement, thinking across your talent life cycle from recruitment, onboarding, through to performance and learning and retention. So thinking about all of those things and setting some clear outcomes. So that's number one. I think number two, we've already talked about this. And I think Nithya said it really sharply, create your skills as the economic unit, ensure that you've got skills mapped to job titles. That's kind of number 101. And a lot of people are afraid of that task. Do we have a core coherent skills taxonomy? Do we have really good defined levels of proficiency? And I think that's just where I want to say that the kind of technologies and AI that we have available through the likes of Fuel 50's skill intelligence solution now makes that job easy. So not only will your skills be matched to your job titles, but it'll be done in a personalized way to your organization's DNA. So what London Stock Exchange is looking for is not necessarily the same as another customer like Fidelity. So we love to define it at your organization level. And of course, that's AI enabled. Number 3, build out that skills infrastructure and do that so that you've got that across your talent life cycle. You've got skills mapped to both people and roles, and technology solutions can really support with you doing that at scale. Whether your organization's got 300 people or whether it's got 300,000, we can support you on that piece of building out a really robust skills infrastructure that has precision and quality baked into it. The fourth thing, and I think Michael kind of talks to this, is that building your skills bridge. So making sure that your people at all levels across the organization understand that supply and demand that Nithya was talking about. So what skills do we have? What's our talent supply? Most importantly, what are our skill gaps? What are our predicted skills gaps? And that's your skills intelligence layer supports with that. But to us, because as Michael said, we're kind of a democratic, we start with the employee. We think your employees need to know what are the predicted skills that are going to be needed and connected to the learning associated with those predicted skills. So bringing your people along on that. And then I think number 5, building that culture of mobility, so that you've got a mindset around growth and agency for your people, that people are own their careers, their career agents, but also the managers are facilitated and empowered to become those agents. And then I think the 6th one would be coming back to where we started, is make skills one of your business metrics, so that your CEO or your CHRO, your head of people, understands, the impact of skills growth on the organization, understands, how we're doing in terms of our fill rates around skills, what are the predicted skills, and what's the return on investment on our skills infrastructure. And our customers, as I started, measure multiple things, but I really wanted to throw the question open to Nithya, because one of the things that I heard is one of the impact and metrics that gets measured is, for you guys was around kind of fairness and transparency. So it's kind of like a softer outcome, but, curious to hear how you're thinking about those metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's also, to your point, and it's the democratization and how do you involve employees in the journey such that you sort of land the skills implementation well. And I think from a fairness and transparency perspective, we also very consciously, as you may be aware, that we've not made the inputting of skills into our Career Navigator platform mandatory, because we want to kind of invoke that feeling in them. So they have to be motivated and kind of energized to go into the platform themselves and feed their skills input or feed their skills data that will then obviously have ripple effects in terms of providing them accurate, meaningful suggestions in terms of their target roles, and even the learning curriculums or any learning courses that they would want to go on to, and also some development courses and development plans that would then feed into performance conversations. And I think it has to be really rounded. One is the what's in it for me. That's absolutely clear. And two is how do you really reinvigorate and energize people to really own their careers and take ownership of their careers and have that real agency. And that needs to come from clear articulation or kind of a storytelling from the top. And I think this has to be something that the HR leaders and business leaders are really invested in and taking the employees through.
How did you organize? I'm very curious how you actually execute on this, right? It's one thing to have a business strategy, a skill strategy, then you actually bring the topic alive, you create as well the strategy, you have the tools, and then how do you work on this in your organization? Because you're not the only person working on this, so I assume that it has a bit of a team.
Not at all. No, I'd be severely inundated with work if I was the only person working on it. I mean, we have a team. I have a team working with me, and I think it's clear. Again, it comes back to articulation and selling the business benefit to our immediate team members, who are sort of our talent COEs in the first instance, and then trying to obviously keep the ball rolling and getting across to the BPs and to business leaders. And I think we keep it a point to publish some of the skills inside the skills data. And we also have a really powerful Power BI dashboard built internally, which will collect all the data points from a skills perspective, but also from performance perspective, to really sort of showcase to any people leader within the organization as to what are the skills their team members really have and what is that they need in relation to what is expected to be demonstrated in their role. So it's kind of a triangulation of all the information that we have. And I think so the skills inside dashboard or the data that we built internally is really sort of fueling us in the right direction.
Yeah, so you actually set also different points, like a measurement moments in time. So you have a 1 year strategy and then an outcome in 3 years from now. So where do you want to be in 3 years from now?
Oh, well, it's a really good question. I think so. We want to be in a position where we are really able to have a good handle of those emerging skills and also declining skills, such that we are able to provide accurate information when it comes to designing learning curriculums, right? So that is our ultimate ambition. And I think with everything so transient, and with the AI, Gen AI implementation, and sort of some businesses are on this bandwagon, but whilst other business units are quite not. So it's really about having that sort of common baseline or understanding, and how do you actually help our businesses really understand the power of skills. And I think that is our ultimate vision. So we've kind of started making progress in this area, but then it's really about how do you get everyone on this journey together.
Margaret, I was going to say, and I sense in LSEG you have that, but you need a corporate mindset, which is about developing people. That it's not just skills for the jobs got today, but we're going to develop skills for the future. And that does come from the top. An organization that says, and like I actually empathize with line managers, because we all talk about internal mobility and the difficulty of it. But if you are being rewarded, your performance is a function of your team, and the incentive is not to export people across the organization. The incentive is to keep them. So you do need that corporate mindset that this is about building people. In fact, I'm a great subscriber to the work of Reid Hoffman, who founded LinkedIn. And he says organizations have a responsibility to make people more employable, whether inside or outside the organization. Too many organizations say it, I've employed you for this job, these are the skills you need, and that's it. And that's not going to be, that's not currency for today's organizations. And I'm delighted to hear what Nina says about LSEG, because clearly there is that growth mindset that we're encouraging. What do you think, Anne?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think we're all aligning around, putting the employees at the front and center of this, because, we need that growth, one person at a time, but scalable across an organization to provide, that organizational resilience that's going to be so important. And caring about what our employees care about, so making sure that they are getting the learning they need, that's matched to them, that's personalized to them, but it's also delivering the kind of outcomes. So there was a London Stock Exchange kind of outcome stat, which is unusual for our customers, but it was actually around perceived fairness around, performance and promotion rates and transparency around that got offered to their people through the skills transparency. So, there's lots of outcomes that can be achieved that are really important to your people.
Yeah. Nithya, that's I can imagine. I see you nodding, so I assume that you're agreeing with Anne, and especially about how you implemented this in the LSEG. I have a question. It's 3 minutes before the half an hour is always flying by. It's amazing if you're in a discussion like this, and I think there's really a lot to mention even further. So my first question is now: are there any questions from the audience? And if not, then we are able to continue, or we could take one of the questions of the audience. Oh, I see one. Thank you, Oli, for this question. A lot of organizations do not have clear career pathing, and this is a miss. If you do not have a clear job architecture where the skills and competencies are clearly defined, how can they grow, develop, and retain their talent? So how is a customer then capable of keeping, developing, and growing their talent?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one in the first instance, and think that, coming back to where we started the conversation, as powerfully said by, Nithya, was the skills are the atomic unit. Get your skills defined, have that at the heart, and then you can build out these career pathing journeys. And as Michael said, give them a really strong why and a roadmap to their future so that they understand the skills that they're going to need in 3 years' time. What kind of roles and opportunities might match for them, in terms of what kind of pathing is available. So I think career pathing is an added benefit alongside the skills strategy that can become, easier to deliver on if you have those skills as the atomic unit.
Nithya, is that also, how do you see this actually on the ground?
And I think this is, again, going back to the maturity of the organization. So even if they don't have a sort of full-fledged working job architecture, and obviously there's so many other external resources out there, so which they can leverage on, which is that you have the skills taxonomy coming from the World Economic Forum, from EBSCO, from Singapore Skills Inventory. So there's resources are enormously available out there. But what's really critical is how do you make it useful for your organization? Because the skills definition, sort of just taking a skills definition from an external data probably may not serve the purpose of people in your organization. And therefore, and I think I firmly believe that skills are the unique DNA of any organization, and therefore that the definition is something that you need to sit down with business leaders and co-create and co-design on. So but the resources are out there, so which anyone would be able to leverage.
I think I wanted to add to that and say that we'd love to share after this, reach out to any of us, and we'll share our, the skills transformation journey roadmap. And it's got some lovely customer stories. Yes, that's the one, Michael. Thank you. And we'd love to share that as an asset, and agree, that there are multiple ways that we can, connect and support you.
I think that is actually a nice last, let's say, word for this session. I would like to say a big thank you to all of you in the panel. So thank you, Nithya, thank you, Anne and Michael. Thank you all for joining, for the questions. If we were not able to pick up your question, we will get back to you on the question via LinkedIn this session. So all of you will be answered. And if you're, or when you're interested to learn more, like Anne already stated, reach out to one of us and we will either connect or support you in your question. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Please connect with us. Thank you.